Hello, everybody. Sorry to interrupt your nice conversation. So a lot of you are probably wondering who I am and what I'm doing up here. I'm Curtis Rollins. I'm from University of Western Australia. And I'm also wondering what I'm doing up here because I've been asked to introduce a man who needs no introduction. So you might know him as a co-author of the most highly cited paper published in the Australian Journal of Experimental Agriculture. He brought you the Public-Private Benefits Framework. He is the author of one of the 100 most popular environmental economics blogs on the internet, at least of those still running today. He's on that wall over there. If those of you who saw Jeff Connor's lovely presidential address would have learned about the 3 C's, this man embodies the 3 C's, but in particular, he embodies charisma. Please put your hands together and welcome to the stage, David Pannell.
Thanks, Curtis, I think. Okay, so it's been 7 years since the last time I sang songs at an AARES conference dinner in Melbourne in 2019. Some of you might have even been there. And you may not realise that led to a big boost in my music career. A video from the show made it onto the internet, and a couple of months later I was called by Taylor Swift's management, and they took me on tour in the US. I was chatting to Taylor after a couple of shows. I was complimenting her, she was complimenting me. And she found out that I was an economist, so she made me chief economist for the tour. And I did regional economic impact assessments of each concert, which made a bit of a media splash, which was great. Anyway, so that tour was a great way of exposing me to a whole new audience. And so when my album came out later that year called Agricultural and Resource Economics, I Gave You the Best Years of My Life, it went straight to #1 in the Billboard chart for economics-related music. It stayed there for 8 weeks. So last time I sang songs about economics, this time I'm going to sing songs about economists. Specifically, retiring Australasian agricultural and resource economists. And it turns out there's quite a lot of them around at the moment. It's a catching thing. In fact, I'm going to cover off on 9 retiring Australasian agricultural and resource economists over the course of 3 songs. The first song ticks the box for 4 of those, the 4 from the University of Western Australia, and that is Michael Burton. Michael, would you stand up, please? You've just seen Michael win a prize, and you've also just seen Steve. Steve Scalisi, stand up. Up, up. Also Ben White. Ben's here. There's Ben. And myself. So I did some maths, and I worked out that between the 4 of us, we have been employed at the University of Western Australia for 116 years. That isn't even a joke. So it's well and truly time for us to move on and make room for some new blood. And so part of the song that I'll do is about those 4 characters, but part of it is also about the new blood and renewal at UWA. And the song's called Michael, David, Ben and Steve. Michael, David, Ben and Steve decided all at once to leave. There's nothing left they could achieve. Michael, David, Ben and Steve. David, Steve and Ben and Mike, just look at them, what's not to like? They're going on an endless strike. David, Steve and Ben and Mike. What will the department do when it's lost the 4 of you? Brand new blood is coming in.
A great renewal can now begin. Ben and Michael, Steve and Dave, such handsome men, so strong and brave. Just three of them know how to shave. Ben and Michael, Steve and Dave. What will the department face? Will it be a different place? Yes, of course they'll turn a page with clever people half your age. Stephen, Michael, Dave and Ben, to 4 careers we say amen. They'll never have to teach again. It's farewell to the older gen. They'll come and visit now and then. Stephen, Michael, Dave and Ben. Stephen, Michael, Dave and Ben.
You probably noticed in the media that Paul McCartney had a holiday in Perth last September, and he rang me when he arrived and suggested we should catch up. It's always good to catch up with Paul. And we were hanging around after dinner one evening, playing guitar and singing old Beatles songs, with me doing the John Lennon harmonies. And it was going so well that Paul suggested we should write a song together. So this is pretty exciting. So we were casting around for ideas for songs to write. And I mentioned to him that I would be singing to you tonight and that I needed to produce some songs about retiring Australasian agricultural and resource economists. He thought that sounded really promising. So I said, well, Paul, which retiring Australasian agricultural and resource economist would you most like to write a song about? And he came back straight away and said, John Quiggin. It turns out he's a bit of a fan. He's a long-term reader of John's blog, and he's even gotten into some of John's more academic work, particularly his work with Bob Chambers on state contingent approaches to modelling risk. The music industry being a somewhat risky enterprise. So we wrote the song, it went quite well. The only real challenge we had was coming up with suitable rhymes for Quiggin. If you think about it, you'll agree that there aren't too many options. We came up with jiggin and friggin, but we didn't think they were very suitable. So keep your ears out in the song for how we solved that problem. Paul particularly wanted to emphasise in the song all the different types of research that John has done work and published on. And so a couple of times you'll hear me go into these long lists of things, so it's all John's various research topics. When we'd finished, Paul suggested that we call the song Sergeant Quiggin's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I suggested that might cause some confusion with another song people could be familiar with. So then he suggested the Ballad of John, and I thought, no, that could cause confusion with a different John. So in the end, it's just called He's John Quiggin. Okay. It's still a bit loud, hang on.
As economists go, he's a big un. He thinks fast, he thinks slow, and we bask in the glow of John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin.
You like that, Gabby?
He's worked on agricultural policy, drought and inequality, public choice efficiency, water and salinity, risk and state contingency, rank dependent utility, rank dependent utility. utility. His mind, it goes deep and keeps digging. Brains like that don't come cheap. He's not one of the sheep. He's John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin.
This is the sing-along part, folks. Everybody.
He's John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin. He's worked on altruism, livelihoods, infrastructure, public goods, education, discount rates, CO2 that sequestrates, crop insurance, wool and grains, energy and climate change, energy and climate change. When debating the right, he's no chicken. He is up for the fight, and he's probably right. He's John Quiggin. Come on. He's John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin.
One more big one, come on.
He's John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin. He's John Quiggin.
Okay, to finish off, I'd like to play my latest hit single. It's had 25 million streams already on Spotify, and it's only been out for a month, so that's going quite well. And it's been an interesting aspect of this one, even though it's only been out a short time, it's already been covered by a number of other quite well-known acts. The only downside of that has been it's a bit aggravating to observe that both the version by Coldplay and the version by Lady Gaga are doing better than mine. But never mind, at least I'll get the songwriting royalties. So, of course, you know this song. It's been all over the media. You've heard it many times. It's been dominating social media. It's called I'm Going Back to AARES. And this covers off on 4 more retirees. The first is Kim Anderson. Where's Kim? Stand up, Kim. From the University of South Australia. Then there's Quentin Grafton from Australian National University, hiding behind the pole back there. We've got Caroline Saunders from Lincoln University. Caroline couldn't be here, unfortunately, but let's give her a clap anyway. And Rob Fraser from University of Kent, formerly from University of WA, also not here, but also worth a clap. Rob's a bit of a stretch, really. Rob retired some years ago, but he and I have a history of humiliating each other in after-dinner speeches, so I couldn't resist putting him in. So you know the song already, so you're well aware that it has a very catchy rhythm, one that people find very difficult not to clap along with. But I'll ask you to contain yourself, and sit on your hands if necessary, until we get to the final verse, the big finale, and then we'll get everyone to clap together. Okay. Yes, I'm going back to AARES.
I'm going back to AARES, it's a marvellous affair. I hope Kim Anderson turns up there. He'll talk of trade and tariffs, he'll talk wine and maybe beer. That's why I go to AARES every year. I'm going back to AARES, it's a marvellous affair. I hope Quentin Grafton turns up there. water. His critique may be severe. That's why I go to AARES every year. I'm going back to AARES, it's a marvelous affair. I hope Caroline Saunders will turn up there. She'll talk about the food miles, getting stuff from there to here. That's why I go to AARES every year. I'm going back to AARES, it's a marvelous affair. I hope Rob Fraser will turn up there. He'll talk agri-environment, he'll have a bright idea. That's why I go to AARES every year.
Okay, time for the clapping, like this. All right, keep that going.
I'm going back to AARES, it's a marvelous affair. I hope everybody will turn up there. I'll talk and learn and hang out with my buddies and my peers. That's why I've gone to AARES all these years. All these years. I'm going back to AARES, it's a marvelous affair. Your turn. I'm going back to AARES, it's a marvelous affair. Oh, you can do better than that. I'm going back to AARES, it's a marvelous affair.
Great, well done.
I'm going back to AARES, it's a marvelous affair.
Thank you very much. Thank you for singing along. Thank you for clapping. And most of all, thank you for coming back to AARES. It's a marvellous affair.